Hello, everybody. My name is Nathan Pearce. I am the Programme Director for Sharing Cities at the Greater London Authority, and I'd like to introduce you to this session, part of Climate Tech's sessions at the London Tech Week. This one is all about how Europe's top cities cooperate to identify leading carbon reduction technologies. So big thank you to Climate Tech for inviting us here, and we're really delighted to be able to share with you the work that we've been doing and some of the things that we've been doing around the Sharing Cities programme. I'm going to introduce the panel very briefly now, and then we'll come back to everybody in a moment to get a bit more of a detailed introduction. As I mentioned, I work at the Greater London Authority, where I head up the Sharing Cities programme as Programme Director, and I also lead the Smart London team. We have Roberto Nacerno from Milan Municipality, who is the Milan lead on the Sharing Cities programme, and Maria Hugonet from Takos Group, who is helping to lead on the retrofit work package. So welcome to you both. We'll come to you soon to hear a bit more about what you guys have been doing on the programme. First of all, though, I'd like to introduce the project to you, Sharing Cities, which you're going to be hearing about a lot over the next 40 minutes. Sharing Cities is a large-scale smart city research and development programme. It's funded by the European Commission through the Horizon 2020 funding stream. And what we're doing in this programme is testing 10 types of smart digital climate technology, if you will, across the areas of mobility, so shared and electric transport and electric vehicles, smart lampposts, many hundreds of smart lampposts and all the various sensors and gadgets and digital technology that you can attach to them, retrofitting buildings to make them more energy efficient and to help us towards our net zero targets that most of us have as cities, citizen engagement applications, energy management systems, and then what ties it all together are data platforms, because data is the lifeblood that makes a smart city smart. Now, these 10 types of technology are all being implemented across our 6 cities. We have 3 lighthouse cities, which are Greenwich in London, Milan in Italy, and Lisbon in Portugal. And these 3 cities have received grant funding to implement all of these technologies, test to see how they work in various situations, and each of them have been focused on a small area or district in their cities where these technologies have all been implemented. And then we have our 3 fellow cities or replicator cities, which are Bordeaux in France, Burgas in Bulgaria, and Warsaw in Poland. And these 3 cities are not grant funded to implement the technology. They're there to see what works, extract which types of solutions are best for their cities, use the business models that the lighthouse cities have developed, and then replicate this technology in their own cities and areas. So we have built into this programme scale up, replication, business models, and the ability for others to learn from other cities. Alongside the cities, we have a number of partners. It's a big partnership, 34 partners, and this includes organisations, large corporate organisations such as Siemens, small businesses, SMEs, as well as academic institutions, so universities in each of the major cities, and also in the UK we have the Catapults, Connected Places Catapult is involved, TfL, and Imperial College London. Now, we've received around 24 million in funding from the European Commission, so it's a large scale in terms of investment, but we're now coming towards an end. So the original programme was 5 years. We had a year-long extension because of COVID, so it's run to around 6 years, and we're coming to an end at the end of this year. So we're really at a stage now where we've implemented nearly everything. There are a few things outstanding, but pretty much everything has been completed. So we're really now starting to extract from this programme our learning about what worked. In particular, what worked in terms of low carbon green technology? What has the testing that we've done taught us about how these kinds of technology are implemented, how they perform, and how we would then do it again if we were to adopt these kinds of technology at scale? We've also learned quite a lot about how you mainstream this type of technology outside of an innovation grant. And we've also been doing quite a lot in terms of how do you leverage further investment off the back of a program such as Sharing Cities. So at the beginning, we had what we call our audacious aim of trying to use the 24 million of funding from the European Commission to trigger 500 million of further investment. To date, we are around about halfway on that journey, and we can evidence around about 250 to 270 million of investment that has been triggered by the work that we have done in the Sharing Cities programme. So in that respect, it's been a huge success. A lot of the technologies we've tested have actually worked, much to some of our surprise. And we have also learned a great deal. Some of the technologies haven't worked, and that's the nature of a research and development programme such as this one. I would also just like to say that a really key learning that has come out of the Sharing Cities programme, which we're going to discuss today in a bit more detail, is it's really made the case for collaboration, and collaboration at a number of different levels. It's made the case for collaboration between public and private partners. It's made the case for collaboration with academic partners, a group that we often overlook, but have actually been really, really useful and important on our journey. And it's also made the case for collaboration between cities. And I think we would all agree that a really important part of this programme and a really enjoyable part of this programme has been working really closely with other cities, understanding how they approach challenges that are shared to all of us and working out solutions together. So I think that's an area that I'd like to explore a bit more of in our conversations today. So that is enough from me for now. I'm now going to ask our other panelists to introduce themselves, talk a bit about the work of your organisation in the area of climate tech, and then maybe a bit about your involvement in the Sharing Cities programme. I'm going to go to Roberto first as the Milan lead on Sharing Cities. Over to you, Roberto.
Thank you very much, Nathan, for this very comprehensive introduction of Sharing Cities, very complex program that we have dealt with for the last 5, now 6 years. Hi everyone, my name is Roberto Lucerino. As Nathan already said, I am an environmental engineer, expert in smart cities, sustainable mobility and decision support system. And I am the Sharing Cities project manager for the city of Milan. If we want to talk about what this city of Milan is doing, we can start from the 2012, when the city of Milan has developed and adopted a range of plans across different policy areas, from urban development to sustainable mobility to energy efficiency, sharing economy, resilience, and smart cities. And this ladder covers smart mobility, smart environment, inclusion, and smart citizens. So if we talk about climate tech technology for the building sector, as a premise, we can say something about the Italian current playground that is characterized by a very, very inefficient real estate stock, as then Maria Elena could point out. So we can say that 55% of the real stock in Italy is older than 40 years, and it's in energy class G, so the lowest one. And only 2% of our real estate stock is in energy class A, so in the highest one. And if we talk about social housing, we can say that 95%, so the vast majority, need a retrofit intervention. In Milan metropolitan area, the building stock is responsible of the 50% of CO2 emission and, average speaking, 25% of polluted. So it's definitely something that a city like Milan has to tackle. In an air climate plan that is still in drafting, the municipality set very challenging strategic goals in regards to the journey towards so-called positive energy city. So the reduction of CO2 emission by 45% by 2030 and the creation of a carbon neutral city in 2050. So very challenging goal. And in particular, if you still keep on talking about the building sector, we have to decarbonize the 50% of the consumption of municipal building, starting, of course, with the most polluting one, and with the requalification of private building heritage. And also increasing the coverage of electricity consumption with renewable sources for 45%. So a very quite wide set of goals and actions that the municipality of Milan has to put in place for tackling these issues and reaching its goals. If we talk about another crucial sector, the mobility and transport one, Milan is pushing a lot the shift from private motorization mobility to sustainable means of transport, promoting sharing and electric mobility, discouraging the use of private car with the creation of congestion charges areas, and also implementing infrastructure such as the cycle path, also with tactical urbanism solution that we adopted during the COVID pandemic. So sharing cities, the project we are talking about today has tried to work in this crucial sector, both building and mobility, together with those that Nathan already mentioned. So we were focused in Milan to a very specific district, the Porta Romana Vettabbia area, that will host the Olympic Village for the Winter Olympic Games in 2024. So we work in this district, increasing the accessibility to sustainable and shared mobility and favoring the intermodality and the connection between the historic center and the suburbs. This is talking about mobility. And talking about building sector, we implement solution and policies and methodologies for reducing energy consumption and noise and pollution. So this is more or less what I could say about sharing cities and what we are doing as a brief introduction of Milan Action.
Thank you very much, Roberto. And I'm glad you've reminded me about the Olympic Games that will be taking place in that area. And I'm assuming as someone who has worked on this programme in that area, we'll be able to get free tickets to come and enjoy some of the events. I'll talk to you about that after this conversation.
I will do my best.
Thank you. Maria, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here and to give my contribution. My name is Maria Elena Ugoni, and I'm a partner of Teikos, which is an SME, a construction company with specialization in energy retrofit and building renovation, founded in 1996 in Milan. And I am in charge of the communication strategies, of the development of communication strategies and of the innovation projects. And so this was my role also in the Sharing Cities project. And for Sharing Cities, Teikos was the task global leader for energy retrofit in private and public buildings for the 3 lighthouse cities. And for the city of Milan, we handled the challenge of the deep renovation of 5 multi-property buildings in the demonstration area, of course, in Milan. And what was very challenging was that the deep retrofit in buildings means to improve energy measures for the reduction of at least 50% of energy use in buildings. And this was very challenging also because the flat owners had to pay for this kind of interventions because, of course, the European Commission would give a contribution, but not paying for all the intervention. This was the challenge for privates. So it was really a positive experience for us, and we finally reached our goal. So which means that was a great project for us.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Maria. So we've got here the viewpoint of the city, the municipality, who obviously have an interest in looking at their wider housing stock. And then you have represented here a business who's actually been responsible for implementing some of this technology in anger. And I'll also be here to give the view of London. As I mentioned earlier, Greenwich was our test area, and the Greater London Authority has an interest in extracting the learning, not only from Greenwich, but from Milan and Lisbon also, and seeing how we can start to mainstream the learning from sharing cities and learning about this type of technology and how it works across the whole of the city, and work with our boroughs and developers to scale up and replicate some of the learning from a project like this. So we're going to get straight on with the questions now. So as I mentioned earlier, Sharing Cities is based on a public, private and academic partnership. It's something that is really crucial to the way this works, and something that was encouraged by the European Commission, which lends itself to collaboration as well. So I'm going to ask each of you to share a bit about your experience of this collaboration, what you have learned and what value you think it has brought to the work that you do. So I'm going to start with you, Maria, if you'll share your view of being a business working with public sector organisations.
Yes, I can say that the partnership and the strong collaboration among private and public entities, as you said, so university, NGO, the municipality of Milan itself, was really, really fruitful, and I would say fundamental to overcome the barriers to energy retrofit. Particularly interesting for us was the experience of the co-design as we implemented this new approach to building owners, which was aimed at engaging and involving directly the condominium community to take part of the choices for energy measures to implement in their buildings. So this was, I think, the most effective tool for this also training of the communities, and as said, was something that let us overcome the cultural and the trust barriers, very strong barriers that we had on energy retrofit measures in multi-property buildings. So I would say that this partnership was very positive and effective, and I know that still we have a long path to do to strengthen more this partnership among public and private, because of course beyond the Sharing Cities project there are always the idea that the public has to control what the privates do. And I think that we have to overcome this prejudice because it's a win-win approach, this strong collaboration. And this was our experience in Sharing Cities.
Yeah, and I think that was really apparent because also you didn't mention it, but I know that the work that you guys did on engaging with those residents, particularly with the residents in the private block, got a lot of attention from elsewhere, and other areas have been interested in what the learning was to extract that. So in relation to that, Roberto, what was the view from the municipality, and what did you learn from collaborating with your private and academic partners?
Yeah, let me say that the private-public partnership was so crucial, important, a pillar for the city of Milan, that the city of Milan started the project with the first proposal to the European Commission with a public call for selecting local partners that were able to suggest, to propose their solution for the creation of a smart district. So we started the project exactly having in mind that we, as a municipality, can't do everything by our own. We have to involve the private sector for helping us in ameliorating our city. And in fact, at the local level, Milan is supported by 16 partners that were able during the project to ensure high level of technological and social innovation. In particular, we have 10 among public and private companies, also including utilities agency of the municipality, university, research center, NGO. So all these partnership with their competencies, with their knowledge, acted in a different way, as real innovation holders responsible of co-producing, co-developing, co-designing, co-implementing sustainable services. So I think that the private-public partnership worked very, very well for the municipality of Milan and for sharing cities. And we are really happy, and this is the way the municipality of Milan adopted in all the projects where we are coordinator or where we have a strong role in coordinating local partnerships. So definitely that's the way that the municipality of Milan will follow also in the future for creating effective solutions.
And I think the best kind of piece of advertising you can do for this partnership working is, if you're going to do it again, then it was good and it worked, and you weren't put off too much by doing it the first time round. So I think, you know, from my point of view in London, I very similar to what you've heard already, and I think the partnership approach worked very well. A couple of examples I would give there is that across all three cities, where there was a strong partnership and collaboration at the design phase of one of our solutions, we have noticed and we have found that those solutions have gone on to exist beyond the end of the program in a much better way than those where it was maybe not quite so much collaboration in the early stages. So in terms of longevity, I think a collaborative approach is really good, because you get quite a lot of useful input and insight at an early stage. A really good example of that for me was an area that none of us had really considered that well, but our academic partners were very helpful in getting us to do the monitoring correctly, and getting most of us as partners to think about creating baselines for monitoring at an early stage where we probably hadn't. It certainly wasn't in the bid. And then you had universities such as Imperial or Politecnica in Milan saying, well, what baseline are we starting from? What are we actually monitoring? And how do we know that this technology is going to tell us what we need to know by the end of the program? So that for me was an excellent example of where a partnership added value to work that we were doing. And then in the long term, having these kind of partners involved adds a bit of validation to what we've done. It's not just us as single entities, it's not just a business saying that this worked, it's not just a municipality, it's a group of organizations saying this solution has worked and that we would do it again. But just going back to this subject briefly, Roberto, is there anything that you might do differently? So, you know, I think we're all agreed that they are the way forward, but we all know that they weren't entirely smooth running, were they, from the beginning to the end? So is there anything you would do differently that you would share with people who are considering a partnership approach?
Yeah, if I may connect to what we said before about the public-private partnership, I see the role of a municipality like Municipality of Milan in an innovative project like sharing cities, that it's better described by with the word enabler instead of implementer. So what I want to say is that we as Municipality of Milan, and we as public administration actually, can play a crucial role in an innovative project in creating the regulatory, the rules for creating the innovation, and better than being those that implement this innovation. This is because of bottlenecks related to, of course, the strict boundaries of public procurement. That is definitely something that that is set up at national level, and it's something that it's difficult to tackle in an innovative project like sharing cities, like the Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. So what I want to say that in a new edition of sharing cities, I would say the role of Municipality of Milan as a coordinator of local partnership, more than an actor, a stakeholder, a partner implementing by itself some solution, especially when we have to face the national public procurement law. This is my 50 cents on this.
Yeah, and I think the great thing that I certainly learned doing this program is that procurement is incredibly complicated no matter what country you're in. So I think that's something that we all learn. Maria, from the point of view of a business, if another business was to say to you, we're about to join a large partnership, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them to watch out for?
Well, I think that sharing cities was a very positive experience, as I said. So I'm not sure I would change something going back in the past. I think that was very crucial to have best practices as we implemented in sharing cities. So for the future, for future project, I would push on having new best practices, because we know that at a national and international, well, let's say European level, policies can take inspiration from these best practices. Also because, of course, we are speaking about people at first. So citizens have to be at the center, not the buildings, of course. And so the communication to these people and let's say the visualization of the results of our innovation. So innovation in practice is fundamental in order to have a scale up, a consequence of a scale up of this kind of activities.
Thank you, Maria. So moving now a bit more to the last point you made there around scale up and the actual technology and what we would extract from a project like this. Climate tech is going to be absolutely vital. I think Roberto mentioned this earlier, to meet our city's targets of net zero. In London, it's 2030. Did you say it's 2030 in Milan? I can't.
2050.
2050.
You'll bring
We
it
have 10
sooner
years
than that,
more.
I'm sure. I'm sure. And you know, these are big, bold targets, and they're going to be really difficult to do just using traditional retrofit and traditional means. We need to use climate technology, digital technology. We also probably need to start getting into the area of citizen behaviour change, some fairly complex areas. Now, we tested a range of these climate technologies in the Sharing Cities programme. How now do we best scale up what worked? What is the best way of moving from our test pilot to citywide adoption, or even countrywide adoption, or even European-wide adoption? So what are your thoughts to this, and what do you think might be some of the barriers? Let's go to Roberto first.
Yeah, a very good question. Let me say that as a public administration, we have a crucial role in setting up achievable and effective goals, trying to intersect them with what the market is able to provide in terms of technology readiness level. And so we have to create the regulatory framework, as I mentioned before, letting the private sector to invest in our territory. This is, I think, the crucial role that a public administration like Milan has to cover. This is what happened, for example, with vehicle sharing providers. Instead of implementing a municipality-owned service, Milan set the playground in terms of requirements and allow the providers to offer the vehicle sharing services. This means that now, thanks to this approach, we have dozens of mobility sharing service running in the cities, including car sharing services, bike sharing, moped and scooter sharing. So this is one way the municipality can have. So it's I know that it's a cliche, but it's more a bottom-up approach, not top-down one. And instead, if we want to adopt a top-down approach, another action that the municipality can put in place is a creation of incentive schemes fitting its local needs towards, of course, global challenges. So in the field of building retrofit, for example, in 2018, the municipality launched a so-called Bando B2, it's a call. It's a 22 million of incentives for promoting building retrofit that so far has financed other 25 building retrofitted on top of the 5 that we retrofitted with the sharing cities, and other 50 have been already approved. And now we are saving 3,000 tons of CO2 per year. So, of course, this is another way for that a local administration like Milan has to as for scaling up the results of sharing cities. Yeah, I mean, and in this regards, the private sector has a crucial role in demonstrating the effectiveness of climate tech in reaching these very challenging goals that the public administration set up. So, of course, we are waiting for solutions from the private sector, both in terms of services and technologies, obviously.
Thank you, Roberto. Maria, following on from that, what is the aims of TAKOS in this area when it comes to scaling up the work that you did in Milan? Because if I remember rightly, at the beginning of this program, TAKOS were one of only two, or maybe the only company that was able to carry out this kind of deep retrofit and this kind of climate tech. So how are you now using this opportunity to scale up what you've learned in sharing cities?
Yes. Well, actually, thanks to Sharing Cities, as said, we created a new products, a new approach that, as a private company, of course, we continued to develop and to implement in our everyday business with, I can say, really great results. So the most interesting part of this work today is that I think it's a mixture of things. So it's not only a matter of technology, of course, technology to implement on buildings, but also this has to be connected with the capacity of give a real service to people. So, for example, let's say the co-design method that we developed in Sharing Cities and also after Sharing Cities, and the creation of new figures dedicated to energy retrofit. For example, in our company, we have a new team that work with building with private buildings for energy retrofit, where we have different specialization, also communication, for example, because a very important part is the communication. People have to be trained in the energy efficiency, have to be to have trust on these measures to implement, and has to know which are the incentives. So I think that the biggest problem I see, as Roberto also said, is the updating of the regulation on this field, because we are running very fast with the new policies. We had the Green New Deal, the Renovation Wave, the Recovery Plan, the Fit for 55. So things are changing very fast, and we have to be always updated in order to take this opportunity of this pushing in policies to do the real work in the cities. So this is the real challenge, I think, on the scale up.
That's really interesting, and yet there's a kind of contradiction as well, isn't there? And we experienced something similar in London, that even though the policy and the political environment can change quite rapidly, it still takes a long time for decision makers, in particular, and people who commission these kind of services, to understand and accept this type of technology and start to include it in their plans. So, Roberta, I don't know if you could say a quick part about how, if any, ways did you try and de-risk this kind of technology when persuading your decision makers to adopt it as part of your scale-up plans?
Yeah, I think that our project, our innovative project like Sharing Cities, plays a crucial role in convincing our policymaker about the effectiveness of this solution. And I think that the opportunity of testing technologies and services and test pilot services or full-scale services is definitely something that help the policymaker in understanding the potentialities of a solution that could ideally scale up in the rest of the city. So, and also these kind of projects provide to the public administration a different, let's say, a policy framework where we can act without the boundaries of the normal administration. So it's very important, this kind of horizon Horizon Call, Horizon Project in, let's say, making also the public administration a little bit smarter.
And I completely agree, and it's been a very similar experience that we've had here at the Greater London Authority. Again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about how something like this validates this kind of technology in a way that a single trial would struggle to do. And I think it's an area where we're looking at, we have the additional challenge in London, obviously, that we're a much more fragmented city. We have 33 boroughs and pan-London agencies. So we have an additional challenge of not only trying to convince our own decision makers within our organisation, but multiple decision makers across multiple boroughs. But I think the work of Sharing Cities has been invaluable in creating that a kind of portfolio of evidence, as it were, validated evidence that we can now go to people across London and talk to them in a realistic manner about what this kind of technology can achieve, and the kind of amazing results that you mentioned in terms of tons of CO2 saved, which are a reality, they're not a theory. So I think that's something that's really appealing to us. We're coming towards an end of our time now, so what I'd like to hear next is what's next? What's next for your city? As we mentioned at the beginning, we're nearing an end, so hopefully this isn't a case of you finish Sharing Cities and that's it, you're not doing anything else. I'm sure that you'll be doing plenty more activity in this area of climate tech, so it'd be really great to hear what your plans are. We'll go with Roberto first. What are the plans of Milan moving forward in this area?
Yeah, let's say that there are several interesting emerging and potentially disruptive technologies that will contribute in making our cities marketplace or a place where it's better to live. For example, from environmental and mobility sensor to 5G, from autonomous vehicle to electrical mobility to microgrid. So there are definitely a lot of different potential technologies that we help in this journey towards sustainability. Let me say that if I have to mention one climate tech, I would say nature-based solution, such as green roofs and facades or reforestation initiatives or tactical greening. I think that because of their sustainability and also their capacity in creating better cities in terms of livability, and also in terms for their effectiveness in facing some pressing issues for the microclimate regulation of our cities, especially both facing heat waves and also helping in rainwater regulation. I would mention this nature-based solution as something that I would like to see implemented in our cities. And in fact, we are also working on this solution, again, with another Horizon 2020 project, this Clever Cities. So we are exploring the potentialities of this kind of solution, again, with this perspective, so to test with a pilot for scaling up at a full scale.
And you know, as you sort of touched on there, the effects of climate change are very real now. I'm aware that Italy has experienced a quite a considerable heat wave over the past couple of months. Unfortunately, in the UK, it's been grey for the whole summer, but that's there's not much change there for us. But this is real and it's very visible as well. Maria, what's next for Takos?
Well, the super bonus incentive is going to change. So we are preparing ourselves for the future. We are working over different projects in terms of new process. For example, for the working site with a more industrialization of the working site in order to be more efficient in terms of costs and timing of the working site. And also with the new technologies, especially domotic on monitoring systems that we started to implement actually in Sharing Cities. And this will be with a new European project that we are partner now. And finally, I would say that, again, thanks to Sharing Cities, among Sharing Cities, which is going to end, as you said, in December, we are working over the digitalization of the co-design process. In this sense, we are taking this opportunity to do actually something more, to creating a new service for the direct communication with the flat owners along the entire process of energy retrofit. So starting from the co-design, of course, but then passing through renovation works, so the working site and all the communication with building owners, and finally, and post-retrofit follow-up thanks to the monitoring system installed in the flat, in the different flats. So these are the principal, I would say, things we are working over now.
And I think that sounds fascinating, and that's something that we could certainly use here in London as we look to carry out quite a substantial retrofit program over the coming years. So my one request to you, Maria, is can you translate that into English for us at some point in the not too distant future? I think that would be very useful. So thank you guys very much. Just a quick word on what's next for London. I think the key areas that we're going to be focusing on moving out of sharing cities is to try and create some kind of central capacity within the Greater London Authority in partnership with some local partners to make sure that we retain the knowledge that we have built up during the Sharing Cities programme, and that we are able to offer that out to London's boroughs and to other cities, both in the UK and across Europe as well, to help other people accelerate the adoption of climate tech and to de-risk the procurement processes. So we're particularly keen to make sure that we can encourage and work with other partners to not duplicate work that we've done already and are learning around things like implementation and standards and the performance of this kind of technology. So this is something we're going to be looking at developing over the next year or so, and we're going to be linking it in with the Mayor's Green New Deal. So lots of Green New Deals being created across Europe. We have our version in London, which is going to be focused quite strongly on retrofitting. That's one of the big areas, along with diesel engines, where we can have the largest impact in terms of reducing the carbon output of our cities. So lots of activity. Sharing Cities is going to feed into all of this. And yeah, I'll be really interested to see how things go in Milan. So let's keep in touch. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much. I've been Nathan Pierce. Thank you very much to Roberto and Maria. And this is us signing off. Thank you very much. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao a tutti.
Thank you. Bye.